I'm going to do a video on cleansing and consecrating, so on sacred space. So this is basically on sacred space. I have an altar set up right here. It's a little mini altar. And so what you can see is there's your typical altar setup. What you see is there's an incense censer, there is some salt, and there is a chalice with water. So when you make sacred space, that's when you are going to prepare any area that you're going to cast a circle, or any area that you just want to make sacred. So you do that through elemental purification. So you usually would start in the east. Now most people break up their elements into twos. Air and fire, which is incense, because the burning embers are fire and the smoke is air. And water and earth is salt is the earth and water is water. So this would be how you'd go. You would start with the fire and air, and you would pick up the censer and you would start in the east. So say I'm in the east. I would normally, you face the east, you could face the altar and you'd say, "Blessed be, O creature of fire and air. I cleanse and consecrate this and make this space sacred. Blessed be." And then you would move to your next station. And you're moving in a diacal clockwise pattern, which then takes you to the south. Now I'm going to face the altar, and I would then lift it up and acknowledge the south. And I would say, "By all the powers of the south, I cleanse and consecrate this area with the powers of air and fire." I lift it up, acknowledge it, and then I move on to the next direction, which would be the west. Now, normally I would be facing the altar. You acknowledge it, you hold it up, you say, "By all the powers, to the powers of the west, I cleanse and consecrate this space by the elements of fire and air." Again, you lift it up and acknowledge it. You continue to move diacal, clockwise, which takes you then to the north. You, in this case, face the altar. Some people face the opposite way. You lift it up and you say, "Powers of the north, I cleanse and consecrate this space with the powers of fire and air. I make this space sacred." You lift it up, you acknowledge it, and you move back to the east where you started. And then you don't have to re-say it, you just lift it up and acknowledge it. And that's fire and air. Now, with earth and water, you take some salt, you put it in your hands, you would add it to the water, and you'd say, "Blessed be, O creature of earth. I add you to creature of water." You would then mix it. Some people call this asperging. I use a piece of rosemary. So in the east, I would hold it up and I would flick it. And I would say, "Powers of the east, I cleanse and consecrate this space with elements of earth and water." I would hold it up and acknowledge it. Move in a diacal pattern. Again, some people face away from the altar. For the video, I'm facing towards the altar. "Blessed be, O creature of water and earth. I cleanse and consecrate thee." And you asperge the area. Then you continue to move on to the west. Now I'll be facing you. You dip it in. You flick the water, literally. You say, "Blessed be, O creature of water and earth. I make this space sacred. Blessed be." You then move again diacal to the north. Again, some people face away from the altar. That's usually the way. But for the video, I'm facing in. I would say, I am making this space sacred, powers of the north, with the elements of earth and water. You reach in and you asperge. Now, if there's a circle of people, you're actually stopping and you're flicking the people. You're actually taking the incense around and hitting them, letting them have some of that. When you get back to the east, there's no need to re-flick or to re-asperge. You merely set it down. Now the space has been made sacred. Now you have sacred space. Now I want to tell you a little bit about cleansing and consecrating. Basically, the tools that you need for that are the same tools for sacred space. You've got your incense, fire, and air, and you've got your holy water. So say you have a piece of jewelry. Oh, I have this ring, for instance, and I would like to cleanse and consecrate it, or re-cleanse and consecrate it. Say I've had it sitting on my pentagram, and I've been charging it, because, I wanted to charge it, or it's a new piece of jewelry, or it's an old piece of jewelry that someone touched or wore. What you would do is, you would hold it over the incense, and you would say, I cleanse and consecrate thee with the elements of fire and air. I remove any negativity from this world or any others. Blessed be. Then with the holy water, the same thing. You reach in. Some people would dip it in. I would flick it, just make sure it got touched. And I would say, I cleanse and consecrate this ring with the powers of earth and water. It is removed of all negativity by the elements of earth and water. This ring is now cleansed and consecrated. I place it back on the pentagram, and that is how you cleanse and consecrate items. So this was a short little informative video. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But that is how you make sacred space, and that's also the basis for cleansing and consecrating. I hope that this was helpful or enjoyable, and any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call, or to leave a message or let me know. Thank you.